how I go and shoot a wedding.
You want to create something in the world, you have to come out of the condition.
I am a lifestyle photographer based out of New Delhi.
पिक्सल विलेज का जो अप्रोच है वो जरा अलग है.
Oh, no. That's what happens when you are a little nervous. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Pixel Village, and I'm Radha Krishnan. So we are now into the third, live session and during this season at Pixel Village, and every time we have so far managed to bring in some really amazing presentations and discussions by real renowned industry experts, photographers, really talented people. And today is not going to be any different. Let me get into that because I've been interacting with them for quite some time. Well, there is an unusual situation in Pune. We are in Pune. So the situation is that we are into a partial lockdown. Usually I run this live in my studio. Today I had to bring everything into my home because at 6 o'clock everything shuts down, and if they see you working or moving about, people do, but you will be risking some kind of legal actions. As a responsible citizen, I wouldn't want to do that. Hence, we Pixel Village is now streaming from home. Sorry. I've tried to do a little bit of, lights. I brought some lights home and brought some, kind of colored stuff home and all that, and try to see what best I can do. Well, let me quickly see who all have come in. Decent crowd. I request everyone to please, share the information that we are currently live. So please, please send, inform your friends that we are live and we're going to have a serious discussion on the business of wedding photography. You're going to be listening to something which is very different from everything that you have heard so far from other photographers. This one is going to be very crucial, key, important aspect of the business of wedding photography. So let me see who all have come in. We have right clicks. Lots of regulars are already here. Right Click Studio, Tamil, hello. Vijay Kumar 1 Creations, Sridham Hara, Anwar Tanawala, Anwar Bhai, thank you very much. And there we have Karpurapu, Academic Production of Media. That is from Good Evening from Dubai. Oh, thank you very much, Academic Production. Gulzar, hello Gulzar Bhai, not seen you for a couple of sessions, so happy to see you back here. Sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm unable to read that. Well, Photo Stock, Hazar Bagh, all right. Onkar, Mirashi, everyone. Ranjit Sadanandan, hi Ranjit, thank you very much for joining in today. Wonderful. Please spread the word so that we get maximum people to come in and, watch this evening's share. I'm sure most of you may have got my WhatsApp messages. All right. So now I need to first thank, before I start, I need to definitely thank our sponsor today. Godox is our sponsor because Godox is going to give away something very interesting towards the end of the session. It's the Godox R1. It's a very cute, powerful, highly, very competitive, no, that's not the word. Very good quality, very, you can do a lot of stuff with it, okay? It's an RGB light. So this is going to be given away at the end of the session for the best questions asked. So don't waste your question, hold on to it, and ask at the end so that we don't miss it. Okay, and of course, there are lot many questions. Have no, please. So don't ask questions anymore. Just hold on to it. Anamika, Photostock, Mark, Aravind, Ashok Kumar from Hyderabad, Nusrat Jahan from Bangladesh. Thank you very much, all, for joining in. Thank you very much. Okay, Ganesh Dhore is from Pune. Wonderful. Saksham is from Nagpur. Happy Prabhal sings from Jaunpur. Wonderful. Let's quickly start this evening session. Okay, so without wasting any more time, I'd like you to meet the guest of today, and he's going to talk about himself. There is a lot to talk about because he's a colorful man. He's done a lot of stuff, and he's doing a lot of stuff. And how? I mean, commendable. So meet this evening's guest at Pixel Village, RAMIT Batra. Hi, Ramit. Good evening.
Hi.
And welcome to.
Good evening, Radha. How are you doing?
Very well, Ramit. Thank you very much for agreeing to be a part of this. I'm really, really excited. And as you all know, Ramit is a renowned wedding photographer. He is a Nikon ambassador. And anyway, he did not start out. There are a lot of things that actually I also want to know about him. So without wasting any more time, I think I'll hand over the mic to him and let him do the talking. And he does, by the way, he also does that very well. Over to you, Tommy.
Thank you so much, Radha. So, just a brief introduction about me. I am RAMIT Batra. I am a luxury wedding photographer and filmmaker based out of New Delhi. And I have been in the world of weddings for over 12 years. I'm a mechanical engineer. I'll just give you a little brief about how I started. I used to do a lot of photography in school and college days, almost 20, 25 years ago. So that is where my journey in photography started. And after college, I went into that, the job phase. I went to Bombay to work. I was working with UTV. I was an assistant director there. Then I started working with a company called Framebox, where I was teaching visual effects and animation, and I was a GM there, so I was part of handling the business side as well. So while all this was happening, I was also doing photography, and I started doing a little bit of commercial photography, a little bit of portrait photography, and then in the year 2008, I got really serious with this, and I got into weddings. And it has been a crazy journey. I have done more than 500 weddings so far. We have traveled to almost 25 countries for weddings and photo shoots. And I'm ambassador with Nikon, and I'm an ambassador with Kodox and Moza. And I use their products, and I love their products. And that is a little bit about me. If you can see my screen, this is a little bit of what I do. I am a CrossFit enthusiast. I travel. I love chilling. I'm not one of those people who you would see doing the typical the 7-day run. I'm more of a very chilled out person. I like to relax while I'm not shooting and stuff like that. And other than that,
guys, I told you you're going to meet a colorful personality. So there he is.
Yeah. So rather, if you can share this screen, I'll just.
Yes. Yeah. So if you hit play, I'll share it.
Okay. So this is me. So we have done weddings in USA, Europe, and like I said, Singapore, Thailand, Mauritius, and all those places. So I do scuba. I'm a club pilot, a paragliding club pilot, and
wow.
I like to do a lot of things other than wedding photography also. And I think that kind of keeps me motivated. That kind of keeps me grounded at the same time, and gives me fresh ideas into what to do. So that's me, and I'm here to sort of answer your questions, and it's a pleasure to be a part of all of you. I know it's a very crazy day. A lot of it's been like a lot of firefighting today. A lot of weddings got cancelled for us also, so not a good
Oh.
day for us to start with. But I'm sure we will talk about how to handle those kind of crises that we are actually facing right now. So I'm going to talk about live into what we are right now and how we are going to handle it. So back to you, Radha.
My first question is there anything that you cannot do? Because that seems to be a whole lot of things. And when do you find time to do all that?
I've never been an actor like you, Radha. I've never done movies.
Okay, you got me there. All right. Okay. So when did you get into photography? I mean, photography. Oh, I know that you mentioned that you were doing photography part time. You were working. You were into a creative medium. You are a creative man. But how come wedding photography? And when did it start?
So in 2008, I was doing a lot of portrait shoots for my friends, and that's how all of us start. We start doing pictures for people around us, and I started doing portraits for a couple of people. And one of my friends was getting married, and I was already doing like commercial work, like actually paid photo shoots. So he said, "Why don't you do like a photo shoot for us? Like in the US, people do these pre-wedding shoots or engagement sessions, as they call it." So he's like, you don't have any experience with weddings. Why don't you sort of do like an engagement session for us? I'm like, okay, let's do an engagement session. And we did an engagement session called the Runaway Bride. Actually, they had no time for the pre-wedding shoot, which is even 12 years later. Today, also the couple never has time for a pre-wedding shoot. So even then, they did not have a time for the pre-wedding shoot. So I actually like just asked them to pack a few clothes and let's just run away from the ceremonies. So that happened, and while and I was in Bombay, and we went to Borivali National Park, and there is a train station there. There are greens there. So we had like so much going on, and on the go we started deciding, let's do this, let's do that, and we had luggage, and it kind of became like a theme in which they were actually running away from their wedding, and they were doing some crazy stuff. So that got picked up by a lot of newspapers. That became like a cover story in Times of India. There used to be a Sunday newspaper called The Crest, which used to come with the Times of India. So they did a cover story on this photo shoot, and that exploded. So that is where people started asking me to sort of do pre-wedding shoots, and then I knew that once I've started doing pre-wedding shoots, the next step is going to be people are going to say that why don't you flow into the wedding also. So then I started going to weddings. I started observing what a wedding looks like, how it needs to be captured, what I can do, and what new I can bring to the table. And that is where towards the later part of the year, wedding photography started. So it started with pre-wedding photo shoots, being like a package for getting into weddings. So I would offer a pre-wedding shoot, and somebody wanted me to take care of the wedding also, then I would take it up. I would not bring in the guns like how we do now. I would just go solo, capture, very documentary style of weddings, and I would do like a very high fashion pre-wedding photo shoot for them. And so that mix became like my signature style, which is still my signature style. I still do a lot of high profile, high fashion pre-wedding photo shoots, and I still sort of do a very documentary style wedding. So that's where I am now.
So which year, do you remember which year was that Runaway Bride shoot was?
So that was early 2008, and towards
that's like a good 12 years back. Wow.
Yeah, and then towards the end of 2008, I had already shot 5 weddings. So it was a good year.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours. I mean, usually that's how it is. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. I'm sure you have put together a small, a collection of your work, your favorite work, to share it with our audience.
I do. I told I have a collection, but it is not going to agree with the terms of YouTube, and we are going to get kicked out. So what I'm going to do is I have some pictures collected here rather on my presentation,
okay. Sure.
which we are going to go through.
Sure.
So what I'm going to do is I'll start by playing one of our recent films that we did,
Okay.
which is so we have so this film is copyright free. I think we
Oh,
can even talk about this later. So this
oh,
is we have actually sort of bought the music of this film. So
okay.
I'm just
So if
going.
you're, I didn't know that you're going to play a video, but if you try to play the video from your end, it may not play well. But however, please try.
So I'm going to
And
send
if
this video file to you. Maybe by the time I can
yeah,
go.
so if you can get somebody to just send it across to me, and I can, while you're talking, I will be able to so you have another stream, right? I need to just shall I bring that video onto the screen?
Yes, please. You can play it whenever
Okay.
possible. Yeah.
Yeah. So nice.
Walk on clouds, brand new ground, no more pain, feel no shame. Trumpet sound, shaking loud, say my name, feel the flame. Walk on clouds.
So yeah, that's typically how we sort of document weddings, and that is the kind of stuff that we do when it comes to
Okay.
weddings.
All right.
And I am going to sort of go to a couple of images, if you can see on my screen
Yeah.
here.
So when you hit play, I'll be able to kind of share that. Yeah. Okay. You're on the big screen now.
Okay, perfect. So this is the same wedding that I've. So this is the wedding that we shot last week, and this is one of the bridal portraits that we have captured on camera. So as you can see that the moon is visible and the bride is
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
walking in and everything. And so this is my
I think you did the video also at the same location. I
yes,
saw
yes.
some bit of the same architecture there. So it was
Yes,
a
so this
beautiful
is Uday
video, by the way.
Vilas. This is Uday Vilas in Udaipur, and this is
Okay.
where the wedding was. And
Wow.
when it comes to our style of images, like I said, it's a lot of very vibrant, very
Mm.
colorful. But at the same time, I try to sort of get into something which is called invisible lighting.
Okay.
That is a kind of a technique which I use. I mean, it's very difficult to sort of explain, but I'm going to try to do it. It's basically absorbing the environment into the frame, into the subject, at the same time merging it with external light. So this actually
Mm.
is lit with 8400 Pro, and then there is this background which is lit by the moon. So this is not a composite. This is not a
Mm. Mm.
multi-layered image. This is a single image. Being wedding
Mm.
photographers, we don't have so much time that we will create
Absolutely.
5 layers of images, and then we will go on later, and then we'll
Yeah.
Photoshop
Yeah.
it. A lot of people
Yeah.
do that, but honestly, we don't have the time to do it. So I
Right.
try to
Yeah.
do it at the moment when the event is happening or when the shoot is happening. I try to sort of capture it there. So this is where the skill of lighting comes into play, and this is what I like to call invisible lighting. That you can't actually make out whether the source of light is there or not there, or if the source of light is actually the moon or the actual lighting of that area. So that is what I try to use in my images. So I'm going to probably show you a couple of more examples. Like this one is this. this one is more of what I would say something which is out there, and I wouldn't call it invisible lighting, but this is something which has been created to sort of blend with the environment. It's a very simple portrait. It's a white wall portrait with just two lights, which are, one is lighting up the wall at the back and one is lighting up the bride. It's a very simplistic sort of portrait, but at the same time, if if you look at the colored image, or if you look at what we created when this was there, you wouldn't sort of look at it from a point of view that this is created like in a studio fashion. This is
correct.
created.
It looks like a big natural, huge window light, kind of the light wafting through that window and lighting the.
So that is what we try to create in this. The change that I did in this image was, instead of keeping the fade from bright to dark, from right to left, we sort of inverted the background, and to do that, we placed another light in the back, so that the wall could be lit up. So it actually looks like there is somebody who's standing right next to, let's say, a blank wall, and maybe she's looking down or just standing there, and maybe there is some sunlight falling on her. So that is what we sort of try to recreate. So anything that I try to do in terms of lighting, I try to sort of not have a very sort of visible light source or a visible lighting in that. So you'll never see shiny faces or a lot of patchy lighting and stuff like that. So that is typically what I like to do. Even with fun shots like these, we try to sort of blend with the environment. So here you can see that there is a proper flash which has been used to light this subject, but at the same time, it is very seamless. It adds a little bit of the shadows. It is used to sort of create the texture of the smoke, which is looking like an exploding head. But at the same time, it's not a visible light, or it's not like a off-camera light, which is very sharp and lighting.
It's got a paparazzi style to it. I mean, it looks like a flash that just
So this is what I love to do. This is my style of creating.
That's really poetic.
So again, this is a movement with a couple. When they had like a huge drape of this dress which is flying around, and again, if you technically look at this image, it could have been a totally black silhouette if we did not use a light to sort of light the couple. So a lot of people miss out on these kind of things when they look at images. They would be okay to create this image and they would get like a nice silhouette, but I wanted the bride and the groom to be a little visible. I didn't want them to be, too visible, because then it sort of takes away from the sun. And I did not want them to be a silhouette. So this is where, little invisible lights sort of come into play. And you can see that while the left of the bride is being detailed by the sun, a little bit of the fill light from the right is being added in this picture to sort of have that.
Okay. Yeah. So that's exactly what you mean by your invisible light. It's there and not there. You can't really figure out.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't look at it carefully and if you don't look at it technically, you will probably miss out on a lot of my images, which would, people would feel that, okay, this image probably was just captured the way it is, because it looks so natural and it looks, it just looks like that is how I would look at a subject, or I would look at an environment. But all of us photographers know that when we are looking at something, our eyes see a very high dynamic range, which we cannot capture, and then when we look at images, other people's images, we generally forget that. We generally look at the image and we're like, oh yeah, this is such a easy image, or this is such a simple image. But then we forget that how did he capture like 9 levels of dynamic range when the camera can only capture 4? So this is where the whole play of light comes into picture.
Absolutely.
So again, a very simple image, but if you look at it carefully, the sun is nowhere to be seen in this image. So how is the couple lit up? Nobody asks these questions. So that is the fun of these images. The entire the entire sky. So I've exposed it for the sky and for the environment, and we have put in two lights to sort of light up the couple. So again, you won't see a distinct shadow which is going from left to right or right to left, or the groom's feet, which actually sort of tells you the location of the light. And so that kind of soft lighting we have created just to sort of have them sort of be visible in the center. Otherwise, if we would have captured this image without the light, it would have been as dark as the tree on the right. So they would have been very dark in this frame.
Yeah, absolutely. This looks like straight out of a tourist. I mean, a tourism ad or something, like a resort ad or something. It doesn't look like a wedding. Yeah, now I know what you're talking about. You try to bring in glamour into this. So it's definitely there, of course. Yeah.
So this is a lot of these casual movements we try to sort of make it into environmental shots. But like this was just the couple was roaming around. This is probably before their wedding was happening. This was, I think, 2 or 3 days before the wedding, and we were there for their mehendi or sangeet ceremony, and then they were just strolling around with friends and just chilling. And I was like, hey, it's a beautiful scene here. I mean, it looks great when we are taking a picture from the mobile phone. So why don't you guys come here? Let's do a picture of the two of you. So,
nice.
like you can see that he's very casually dressed. He's just in his chappals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, this is your venue. Let's have a picture of you guys.
Correct. Wonderful.
So again, a similar lighting setup. Now, this is, what a lot of people would think that, is this light coming from a window, or is this a typical flash which has been used? So, this is like a mix of the two. There was a little bit of light which was coming out of a window, but it was not lighting her jewelry and her neck. So it was just coming on her face, and it was a very narrow beam of light. And I was like, this looks amazing, but the area is so small, and it is lighting such a little part of her face. We need to sort of add in a little more light to sort of balance it out. So we have added a little bit of our own light to sort of diffuse the effect of it and create like an image which actually blends with the natural light. So this is again like natural and artificial lighting combined into something which would just qualify as a window light picture.
Sure, very very interesting. People are enjoying the video. I mean, sorry, the presentation, and I'm getting response. There are some questions, but I would discourage taking any questions now. We will do that at the end. So please save your questions. Ramit, please go ahead.
Right. So now this one is again a slightly distinctive lighting. This is when a lot of couples, when they are walking in and all that, you see a beam of light or like a spotlight being put at them. Now, what happens with that spotlight is it lights up the couple, but it actually kills the entire environment around it. So here, the biggest issue with this image was that, we wanted to expose for the environment. We wanted to capture the image, but the beam of light was just, falling on their faces. So we decided that, we are going to sort of kill the beam of light. We are going to make our own beam of light. So the beam of light was coming from the front. But what we did was we actually sort of overpowered that beam of light with our own lights, and we kind of exposed it in a way that we were able to get the dancers also lit up. It's not perfectly lit because it was a very tricky situation, and it's not like a posed image where I got the time to do it. It had to be done on the fly. We have all those micro triggers, and we are just dialing in settings, and they're walking in. And, there are guests who are in front of you, so you only get like a few seconds to sort of nail this picture. So I was working on the frame of the couple centering in between the dancers and all these drummers, and I was like, okay, my light, I need to boost it, and then I had I always keep one light as a backup, which is more like a backlight. So I called for that also, that I need that also, and So it was two lights on
This
camera
has to
left.
happen I mean, while this thing is going on, right? I mean, it's not a stage shot anyway.
No,
I mean,
this is the couple walking in for their engagement. So this is
uh,
actually, they had like a 2-minute song in which the drummers would come in and they were like doing the beats and all that, and they're walking in. So it is probably like 100-meter walk at the most.
mm,
So you have to get as many pictures. You have to get the crowd picture. You have to get the crowd reactions. You have to get the parents' reaction. Also, you have to focus on
mm,
the couple, and you have to get some ambient shots, and then so all sorts of things are going on, and in which you have to sort of
mm,
also figure out how to sort
yeah.
of use the center spotlight.
I must
So
say this is a very very unusual picture that I've come across, especially of a part of a wedding. This
yeah,
looks like multiple. I mean, it's got so much depth in it, and you've kept everything in focus. Usually, people try to throw things out of focus. They like a bokeh, but this
yeah,
is nice. Wide. You didn't mind things getting a little kind of distorted, but you caught the moment, and you also thought about overpowering. Now there is a photographer. I mean, this is what I remember from, called David LaChapelle. I don't know if you've heard him. Is someone who loves to create this multiple layers. He's a commercial advertising photographer,
okay,
and he usually likes to create these multiple layers in his work. David
right,
LaChapelle. So if you look at, I mean, very popular in the early 2000s, and a cult figure in America, especially in advertising, and rock star. He's done tons of rock star images and covers and stuff. So he does these kind of stuff because there are
wonderful.
these exaggerated movements in the front. It's not about the beauty, it's about those layers and activities and the kind of contrasting colors and elements that he mixes in the shot. You go crazy. And I think I see a lot of that kind of. I suddenly remembered that those kind of style. Of course, doing that in one shot is like, yeah. I mean, a lot of
So that is, so I
yeah,
think these days a lot of the newcomers, people who are in, or not even the newcomers, people who are there in the industry for a long time, they kind of keep forgetting that there are things that can be done. There are new things that can be sort of added. We don't generally just need to sort of do the typical like the bouquet shots and
yeah.
out of focus backgrounds and stuff. And then the new trend which had come in the last couple of years was to black out everything, and then
Yeah. Keep
people got
a
influenced.
tiny mini silhouette somewhere in the distance, and you put a
Yeah,
pointer saying that here my couple's right here. Can you spot the
yeah,
couple kind of competition?
yeah.
I've
And
seen
then
that. I know it's been influenced by a Western photographer. I've seen that too.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then those Western photographers, the same photographers, shifted to a different kind of photography style in which they would actually just create pictures of everyone which are well lit, which are like one person is lit up and then they'll dodge and burn everything else, and then you just see
Mm,
that one person as a portrait. So a lot of
mm,
these styles keep coming and going, but eventually what the bride and the groom want is they want to see their environment. They want to see
absolutely.
they want to see themselves, they want to see their family. They just don't want to see pictures that will get you awards. They want to see what their wedding looked like. So there has to be a balance of both the things, and creating one of those or two of those images in a wedding is very difficult, because then you are just focusing on creating those pictures and you just forget about everything else. So rather, what we try to do is we try to focus on good lighting. We try to focus on good, capturing skills. We try to sort of work on a good teamwork, that, somebody is doing crowd control, somebody is doing couple, somebody is doing creative pictures. And then, we keep shifting the team. Then we take turns to sort of move around and do different things at the same time. And then that sort of, once we see those images, and, out of
Mm.
those, we generally get like 20, 30, or 40 images which we really, really like. And then, those have the potential to sort of, we
Go
can do
into the
that.
album.
We can actually take it to Photoshop, do those crazy edits and stuff like that. But at the same time, we are able to do it. But if we are only working for those 20 or 30 images, we are going to miss out on the other 1,000 images that we would have captured. So I mean, that is just my style. I mean, everybody has their own
Yeah.
way of working.
No,
Uh,
this
I
is-
generally work with
I-
big teams and big weddings, so
okay.
we generally have to. I mean, most of my team members around me would be in the. I would generally have like about 4 or 5 photographers. I would have 3 or 4 cinematographers working in a team. So our team
Oh,
was typically in the 10, 12, 14 range. Before COVID, when we had regular weddings going on, we were specializing in really big fat Indian weddings, and
mm,
we had a very different style of capturing the whole thing. So now
mm.
things have changed, of course, because of the
Yeah,
COVID.
I'm sure for the time being, of course. I mean, but things will get back to normal. The country is getting vaccinated. Hopefully,
Yes.
yeah, things will get back to normal sooner than later. Yeah, let's hope this, that. But what I really liked in the way is that instead of following a trend or a tradition, you've tried to have a philosophy behind the way you see the images. That's what has helped creating those images, according to me. So yours is the invisible light, one line brief to your people, and then that becomes your mission to achieve, right? I mean, so from there, each and every member in your group, at least majority of them, will try and create images that will suit into that. Instead of trying to blindly copy somebody, you
Yeah.
have a one line brief, which is not an image, which is
Yeah.
a one line brief, and you're trying to recreate it in your own way, which is
Totally.
I think that's where I think that's the reason why you managed to get those images, is what my humble feeling is. Because I see people following trends, and yes, I keep saying trends are like chewing gum. I mean, well, once the sugar coating is over, you have no other option but to spit it out. I mean, you can't swallow it. But
That's
a good Indian dessert sweet, which is presented in front of you, your mouth watering. You'll keep mouth watering. I mean, you can even think about it, and mouth will still water, right? So that's the objective of a true artist.
such
Absolutely.
a nice
And
way to
that's,
put it.
yeah, and that's the reason for success also. It's obvious. It's obvious. I mean the kind of people who hire you, probably if you were to copy, if you are somebody who are copying a Western photographer, I mean, I'm sure some of your clients or most of your clients can actually afford those guys. Why
Yeah.
you want the imitation or a photocopy here instead? Let's fly those guys down.
Yeah.
So they obviously are coming to you for your style, and it's
Yeah.
obviously is there. Wonderful. Great.
Rather, in
Please.
wedding photography, I think the most crucial thing that photographers forget is their personality. I mean, you could replicate your Western photographer. You could. I think my light just popped out. Just can I just switch it
Ah,
on? Give me a second.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, so let me see if I can come. Oh, there it is. There it is. How do I? All right. So we'll wait for Ramit to come back because his light, I think, ran out of power. I think it was
No, no, no.
probably
It
okay.
was it
Oh,
was on power. So we have been experimenting with Godot's lights. So their standby is 120 minutes.
ah,
So, we forget that these lights are on all day. So we
uh,
really lose a track of when those 120 minutes are going.
yeah, yeah, sure.
So okay.
All right. So we are now well into half an hour of our presentation. If you have any more images that you would like to share with us, we'll do that, and then of course we will move into the topic of the day, which is the business of wedding photography, and
Right.
of
So I'm
course
going to
something that you
show.
would like.
So I'll show you maybe 4 more images. We'll quickly go through the concept of invisible light in different scenarios, and then we'll probably take some questions on invisible lighting, and then we'll move to the big topic that you have saved for today.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yep.
again, this
You're on the big
is
screen. Yep.
like a very basic portrait, I would say, in front of the venue. This is Taj Falaknuma Palace. This is a Telugu bride. And, when we speak to our brides and grooms and, we understand what they require, we get to know what their favorites are, why they are getting married at a particular location. So all those things sort of we get to know. And so from all those notes, I knew that her image or her being at Taj Falaknuma Palace were a very special thing for her, and I really wanted to capture this. So for us, capturing this was not the whole. This was like a piece of cake. I mean, we can just set this light up in a minute and do it. It was the whole logistics which was involved into getting her to this location. That was the whole problem. Because, look at any wedding. When the wedding is happening at a mandap or any location, the bride is generally, she has to enter and go in. So
Yeah.
it is very difficult for you to sort of convince the family or convince the people and get the bride out for that 1 minute portrait and then
Yeah.
let them go back in. So this is again, this is not quite invisible lighting because there is nothing we could have done with this. She's wearing a silk sari, which is definitely going to bounce light, and then it's a very dark kind of a backdrop. So this is where creating a moment in which she is stress free and she has no feel of a photographer or no feel of being conscious of this picture around is what we try to create. So here it becomes invisible lighting actually becomes the invisible setup for the bride. And that is where this is the next level that we have started thinking about, that we don't want our clients to sort of be conscious of what we are doing. Even if they see multiple lights around them, they should not be like, oh, I'm looking there, I'm looking so funny, I'm getting conscious, and I don't know what we are doing. Why am I looking there? Why am I not looking in the camera? So all those thoughts are put in this picture, and this is like probably our next invisible lighting and invisible cameraman comes with it. So this is why this is a very important image for our growth at the moment.
Yeah, sure.
So this again, another image where we have created light, which is sort of going with the environment. We have just two human beings are very difficult to sort of capture, and here we had two horses to sort of add to the complexity. We had to manage light with it. We had to manage a sunset with it. We had to manage our artificial lights with it. So this is like as complex as a setup can be. It looks very easy to see that you can just put two people and then they're just looking at one location and the other person is in the background. It's why is this such a difficult shot? And once you look at it and once you visualize that there are so many layers involved in creating this
Absolutely.
picture, it becomes complex. How was the flash stand being managed? How many lights were there? How did you know that what is going to be the location of this particular shot? How close were the people coming in? And horses are never steady; they are always
exactly. That's what I'm about to say. Ask the horse to move 3 mm to the left. Sorry, 3 inches to the left. Can you move a little to your right?
And the icing on the cake was, we really like to do these. We never really like the bride and groom looking in the camera, so we always try to create like a scenario in which they are, there is something happening that it's not like the couple is looking, the bride is looking right, and the couple is looking, the groom is looking left. So we have tried to sort of create this, but here we wanted the horse also to sort of turn his face and look at what the bride was looking at. So it just adds so many layers to it. And finally, I'm gonna this is another one of our images. This is on the cover of a lot of Nikon magazines. This is another image which is very close to my heart, and this again is a great example of our concept of invisible lighting. This is where anybody who likes to sort of learn about this is going to sort of get it. The sun is setting in the back, so anything which is facing the back towards the sun is going to be dark. So this is a very simple concept, and this had to be lit up properly. We had to use a couple of bare flashes and add a lot of volume to this entire area to sort of balance the backlit sky. So this is again one of our images which has gone viral last year, and it became really popular in a lot of magazines.
Very nice image.
Yeah, so this is what I like to do, and this is what I wanted to sort of show you guys, that this is what we've been up to, especially ever since we have gotten hands on these tiny lights with Godox. It's just, it's just so convenient to sort of create
Yeah,
these
they are.
lights on
They
the
are.
go. And we can manage up to 5-6 lights on our triggers. It's just phenomenal how, it works.
So when you, since you're talking about lights, I must definitely tell people that the session is actually made possible by our good friends at Godox. Ramit is a Godox mentor, and for the best question asked today, this evening, we'll be giving out Godox R1. It's a
Nice.
small, very, very cute light.
Yeah.
Very, very capable one. I don't know. Like you said, if there is, it's an RGB light. It's got infinite capabilities. It's got, well, I'll spend the whole evening if I try to, try explain this small
I'll
light.
add on to
Highly
one
capable.
feature of this light, which I like to
Sure.
use rather. So
Sure.
this light has a magnetic back. So what we
Mm-hmm.
do is whenever we are doing like off-camera lighting, our videographers are always complaining that, sir, we don't get to use the light. You always put your flash everywhere. So what we have started doing is we've started putting these lights on all our stands. So whenever a videographer needs it, he has the light in his pocket. He switches it on. Whenever he needs it, he just puts it on one of our. So we have our flash guys, and then he just puts it on the top of it. So it's very convenient.
So that magnetic back is really helping. So if you have a phone which has a paper case or a phone which has a metallic, body, you can always, attach it onto that, and it stays like that. And see, inside the cars, you can actually let it stay on the ceiling, on the dash. It's very, very, very. I mean, yeah. 2003, 4, 5. I mean, you were in filmmaking, so you know how difficult it used to be to create a invisible light. I mean, in fact, invisible light in closed spaces. Very, very small spaces. I mean, these kind of lights have really made the life so easy. Totally. And you can imagine a light, imagine a color, and it'll give you that. By the way, the new app. In the new app of these guys, you can actually pick a color using your camera, and this light will reproduce that color.
Oh wow!
So you like a color of the wall, and you want this light to emit a similar light. Use the app, pair it, shoot an image off the wall or whatever that you want to color that you want to recreate. Pick that color, and this guy will instantly reproduce that color.
Yeah, amazing.
Fantastic. Anyway, yeah. So moving on. The most you have more images to show.
No, I think we are almost touching the 1 hour mark. We should move to the
that is the most important one. Quickly before we move there, can you please give an idea about the kind of gear that you use?
Sorry, I didn't get you, rather.
The kind of camera gear that you use.
So at the moment, I am totally into the Nikon ecosystem. So we are using Nikon Z6 IIs as our primary photography and filmmaking cameras. We have totally shifted to the Z line of lenses also. So from the 20mm to the 35, 50, 85, 2470 and 7200. So all these lenses and the 50mm, the 51.4s. So that is what we are using at the moment. The best part about these is, the Z6 II is really capable in terms of photography as well as videography. I'm a big fan of dynamic range. Like you would have seen that I'm talking about invisible lighting. So dynamic range goes very sort of, it's a very important part of our gadget decisions whenever we want to buy something in terms of photography or videography or anything. So Z6 II sort of falls right into where I want the kind of the smaller size and the kind of dynamic range, and of course the price is very reasonable as compared to when we used to buy 1DX2s and all these expensive cameras which had good dynamic range. The D850s, those were so expensive. And now the Z6 II is really, out there. It's very reachable, so we can buy multiple of those. and it has great features. It has NFC and all those features which can be used, which we use for, these days people want instant images, so we have to share images instantly, and it has Wi-Fi control and all that. So it just works perfectly for us. It is a smaller size, which was very important for me again. I'm hoping that in the future they'll also have lenses which are light and small. But at the moment, it just works perfect. In terms of lights, for weddings, we use a lot of V1s, the Godox V1 flashes, because they are just super convenient. They're very small. I mean, you don't even miss a single flash out of the 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 flashes that you do, and it's just super easy. It's very cheap. I mean, that is a big advantage. That if a stand falls somewhere, or if something happens to a flash, if even on during a sangeet, although it has never happened to us, but even if you're popping the flash at full power, and if the bulb goes out, or if the flash overheats and burns, even it's not an expensive flash. It's very cheap. For our portrait shoots, for weddings, we use the 8200 Pro, and we use the 8400s. For our in-studio setups, where it's a very controlled portrait shoot, or like a bridal shoot where I have to replicate, or I'm competing with the sunlight, I go to the 600 range. So that is my lighting setup. In terms of cinematography, we are using the same Z6 IIs and lenses and all those equipment. The gimbal that we are currently using is the Aircross 2. That is kind of working great for us. Yeah, so that is the Moza. And I think those are the three main brands that I think that we are sort of linked at the moment with. I'm not even. I mean, I don't even know if we use anything else from a different brand. I think all the lights are pretty much Godox, and I think that's about it in terms of equipment.
Wonderful, great. So to the most important topic of, and by the way, that video and this presentations were fantastic. They definitely is telling a story in a different way. You have a style of your own, which is very important. And I mean, it's those two images that you particularly spoke about. That one which went on to magazines, Nikon magazines, and that spread where the bride and the couple is walking towards the camera, and all that is very nice images. Couple of our viewers actually recognize those images, and they say, "Wow, I've seen this image and I like this image." And we have someone called one of our regulars, Bhavesh. He himself is a photographer. He's a pet photographer. He loved those horse pictures particularly, and so yes. And in fact, there is a small discussion happening among the viewers in the about what is right and what is wrong. We'll get into that later. Let them have their discussions going on the sidelines. But we will continue with our conversation today, which is the most important one, which is about wedding photography as a profession. The profession comes with a lot of when it's a profession, you are doing it in exchange of money. There's a professional dealing that is happening, and at one point you stop becoming the artist that you are, and then you become the businessman that you are. And then there is an exchange of there are a lot of things that goes on there, right? And as a commercial photographer, we used to deal these things slightly differently. I recently read, and I also posted an extract from that news item where one photographer in Bangalore was taken to court for not delivering image certain part of that wedding event. And the court actually awarded something which went against the photographer and in favor of the client. So I would like you to, at the light of that, I'd like you to start your, the most important topic of today, which is the contract, which is between you as a photographer and your client. So again, over to you, Ramit.
All right. So I think let's first get into the technical bits of what a contract is and what is required of a contract. The very important thing to note is that a contract is not actually a physical piece of paper which is being signed by the client and the photographer. A contract could be a verbal communication, a contract could be an email, a contract could be a WhatsApp message. Generally, the verbal communications are inadmissible in court. It is actually not if somebody is there to sort of vouch for it, but I mean, it is a very complex topic, so we are not going to get into that. We are just going to assume that anything verbally done is not going to be sort of admissible in court in case you're making a contract or you're making like a legal document. So anything else which is written, like a WhatsApp message or an email or a physical printout or let's say a e-contract, all those things are they are viable. They stand in court. So the details that we need to sort of look at. The first thing, rather you can probably run this on the screen.
Sure.
So the important details to look at are, one, the dates, the event names, then the reporting time and the venues. So this is where you're telling the client that, okay, this is what you have told me. I have registered this information on a piece of paper or on that message. Tomorrow, that you can't tell me that, okay, my event was at 7 o'clock and you turned up at 9 o'clock. Why is there a difference? Because you messaged me that your event is going to start at 9, so I came at 8:30 based on that information. So this is very important to sort of figure out. Secondly, you need to sort of tell your clients how many photographers and cinematographers are you bringing. A lot of people just assume that wedding photography is wedding photography, cinematography, live streaming, photo printing, everything. So when somebody hires you as a wedding photographer, you need to tell them that, do you also want video? Do you also want prints? Do you also want a live session? Do you want XYZ? So all those things have to be put in. When you list out that there are going to be 2 photographers who are going to capture stills, there is going to be 1 cinematographer who's going to be capturing video, and there is going to be 1 helper or 2 helpers. This is my team of 5 people that is coming to the venue. Then it becomes self-explanatory that your live prints are not happening, that your Zoom call or Zoom live link or YouTube live link is not happening. That is probably an additional service. Don't assume that the client knows that this is not a part of your package. So putting in what you are offering on paper actually clarifies a lot of things. So this is the second most important thing for me, that you write down how many photographers, cinematographers, what is going to be the team composition. Then comes the number of hours expected for work. So there are times when we take up really big weddings, there is no conversation where we tell them that, okay, this is when we are coming in and this is when we are going out. But we generally tell them that it is a bulk of an event. So your wedding is basically either starting at your haldi chuda in the morning, or it is starting at the barat, or wherever the client is going to tell you when or where, what event it is starting at, and you are going to tell them when it is ending. So it cannot be like you have to cover the wedding and then 2 days later there is the Greh Pravesh which is happening. That is a part of the wedding that has to be covered also. So it has to be clarified that the wedding is a single flowing event. When there is a break of an event, that is where your services end, and that is where the second event starts. So you have to clarify that once the vidai happens, you're done. And if your vidai is happening the next day, that is not a part of your package. So this is very important to sort of clarify with the client, especially during COVID times. There are timings. Let's say there is a 10 o'clock capping. People are distributing events. The wedding happens on a particular day. and then the remaining ceremonies or the post-wedding ceremonies happen the next day, and then the pug fera or the bride coming back to the bride's home for another visit happens on the third day. So you're not expected to include all of that as a single package. So that is where the dates, the event names, and what is it that you are covering within that has to be clarified, has to be clearly mentioned. So that is where your number of hours come into picture. You tell them that, okay, haldi, let's say 8 a.m. your haldi is starting, and the client says that the vidai is going to happen at 6 in the morning the next day. I mean, it is inhuman to sort of be photographing for 22 hours. But if you want to take up that project, you need to clarify that it is going to be from 8 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next day. If it overflows or if it keeps going on till, let's say, 8 p.m. the next day, that is going to be charged so much extra. These are going to be the charges. So that is where you need to clarify that, humanly you are able to capture this. Raat ko, once your wedding is done, a second team is going to come and take over for your post-wedding ceremonies and all that, and it is going to stay in the morning, or depending on what your strength is, how much you can capture in one day without sleeping, without resting. It totally depends on you, but it has to be clarified to the client. Then it comes to things like what is included in your deliverables, what are the quantities out of it. So let's say when you say, I'm going to give one album, you need to mention how many pages, what size of an album, how many images can that album absorb. All those things are very important for the client. They might be visualizing an album that they saw from, let's say, Canberra, and you are probably giving an album which is made by a different agency, and then that becomes like a discrepancy for them. They might look at a coffee table book that they saw in somebody else's wedding and imagine that that album is going to be coming to them, but you give them a leather bound album instead of a coffee table book style paperback album. So that becomes like a conflict, and this ambiguity comes because you are not giving information to the client. So you need to mention that, okay, this is going to be your album, this many pages, this many pictures, this is the size, this is the quality type, etc., and this you just mention in your deliverable list. Then comes the timelines for payments and deliverables. I'm going to touch this in the next slide. Add-ons.
So give me a second. What I'm going to now do, since it is so important, I'm going to go live as you speak and tell people that there is something like this happening, because I don't want people to miss this. So please continue with your presentation. I'm going to mute my phone and I'm going to go live and going to tell people that there's going to be there is whoever is missed. Okay, so I'm going to tell them, because this is very important. So I'm going to mute myself. You please continue, sure. And sure. I'll quickly be back. I'm going to be here. You can see me what I'm doing.
Yes,
so all right, please continue.
Okay, so this is. So the timelines for payments and deliverables I'm going to cover in the next slide. So add-on prices for albums, extra days, and anything that you're giving additional has to be mentioned, so that the client doesn't take you for a ride when they say that, okay, ek chota sa ceremony aa gaya hai, or there is a small dinner after the pre-wedding shoot which you'll be able to cover. So you have to very categorically mention that, okay, event A, B, C, D on day 1, 2, 3, 4 is a part of your package. Anything extra that comes in is going to be charged so much. If it is a small event, you just want one photographer, this is the pricing. If it is a big event, you want 2 photographers and 1 cinematographer, this is the package. If it is a totally separate day and it is like a major event where you want multiple photographers and cinematographers and maybe an album for that particular event, then that is the separate pricing for that. So when you mention these add-ons, the client knows that, okay, the part of the deal is not that on those 3 days, anything that is going to be happening is going to be covered. Or, on that particular wedding day, even if the groom side has some events, you are obviously going to cover it. So all those things become very clear. To make this a little more concrete, you need to mention the contact number, the address, the phone number, the email ID of yourself as a photographer and the client. why we are doing everything for the client and the photographer. I'm going to sort of again cover this in the next slide in a little more detail. And we are going to talk about the cancellation clause and the acceptances of all these pages. So, coming to the client versus photographer conversation. So, Radha, are you back?
Right. All right. I need to go back and join the live stream. So I see you in a bit.
Okay. So, this is
All right.
where.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay. Wonderful. So this is the most important thing in terms of a contract, because whenever we talk about making a contract, whenever we were talking about that incident that this photographer lost this battle in court wherein the client
Yes.
sued him for not delivering pictures,
Yes.
our contracts are also lopsided. Whenever I've seen photographers' contracts, there is no coverage for the client, and that is not how we need to make contracts. So now, if you are thinking of making a contract, if you don't have a contract in place right now, if you're taking notes or something, the first thing that you need to know is you need to sort of make a table which says client, and then you need to make a table called photographer. And when you write down the points, your points should be almost equal for both. The client should also get some points, and then you should also get some points. It has to be balanced. So the first thing that we're going to look at is payment timelines versus delivery timelines. Now we mentioned that, okay, I need a 50% booking amount right now when I'm taking the payment from you. So this is something that you mention in your contract or message or something. And then you mention that, okay, 25% I'll take after the wedding and 25% after delivery and whatever. Uh, at the same time, you need to mention your delivery timelines. We are very happy to mention हमने payment कब लेना है. We are very particular about when we are collecting the payments, but we never mention when we are delivering stuff. So we need to put that categorically. You need to mention if you're doing a next day edit, you mention that you are going to give them a film within 24 hours of the wedding. So that is your next day edit. When you are giving them a teaser or a preview, you need to mention that it is coming in 15 days or 30 days or 100 days, whatever is your timeline. You need to mention that. You need to mention that your time starts after the wedding is over. Let's say if it was a destination wedding, take one extra buffer day. Maybe what we say is we put in that once we are back to our studio after your wedding, which is generally the next day, that is when your timelines begin. So if we have to give you a next day edit, it is going to come on day 2 and not day 1, because day 1 we are just traveling. So we are not carrying our editor with us, so we can't give you a next day edit. So it just becomes a little more clear. When you're talking about a same day edit, you need to mention that the same day edit will be given to you at this XYZ particular point. It cannot be like, there's the haldi and chuda ceremony is going on, and you mention that you will also include the bride entering the mandap in your same day edit, and the fairas are going to happen in 1 hour, and you have to present that same day edit right after that. So it becomes not possible to sort of add that shot, take it to your edit table, render it, take it to the DJ console, and get it ready for display in 1 hour. So you need to add your buffer times. That, I mean, if it's possible for you to create that in 1 hour, that's amazing. But generally, people give 2 or 3 or 4 hour buffer times. So that has to be mentioned as your delivery product, because later the client is going to come and say that, you're asking for your payment, you were not able to deliver your same day edit at that particular time when we were sitting for dinner. So I am going to not pay you for that particular thing. So you should have a very clear point that you needed 4 hours after that entry or the last shot, and this is where you are able to deliver. So whenever you are putting your delivery timelines, it has to be subject to the last shot or the last event day or the last captured moment. So it has to be relative to that and not open ended that I'm going to deliver all your stuff after 7 days. When do the 7 days start? Does it start when you reach the venue, or did it start when the event got over? So that has to be very carefully mentioned in your contract. So that is the first aspect. wherein you are safeguarding the client that, okay, I want my money and you want your delivery. So here is a balance of what my payments look like, and here is a balance of what your deliveries are going to look like. So if I fail on any of these, my deliveries or anything, you can probably sit on your payments, and you can then take a call that what you are going to do with it. You can delay your payments or whatever. So it has to be balanced for both. This is where the clause comes in, which is called the failure to pay versus failure to perform. So you have to tell the client that, listen, I am going to stick to my timelines. I'm going to stick to what we are doing. I know my job. I know I'm going to sort of deliver it on time. But then what happens when you fail? What happens when you don't pay on time? So that becomes a part of your delivery timeline. So then you mention in your contract that you are going to start editing, or you are going to start doing your next day edit or whatever till your X payment is cleared after the last event. So let's say in your contract it was mentioned that 50% advance, of course you got that. Remaining 25% you had to collect at the wedding day. So let's say the client doesn't pay you that 25%. So you can actually tell your client that since you did not pay that 25%, your next day edit or your preview or your teaser or those 200, 300 pictures that we had to give you are still on hold because we have not received the payment. Or you can actually put that in the contract and choose to ignore that clause depending on whether you have that understanding with the client. So that is a very subjective way to put it, but it has to be in your contract. There has to be a point wherein you can tell the client that, hey, it is not only about my deliverables, it is also about your deliverable, which is the payment. So you stick to your timelines, I'll stick to my timelines. Now
Hmm.
we are safeguarding ourselves here when we are saying what happens when the client fails to pay. But then what happens when we fail to perform? Which is where we are going to sort of, which is the question that came in, wherein the guy got sued because he did not cover it, because of whatever reasons. So this is something that comes with experience. This is something that this is where you can put in a 20 or 25% payment to come in later once the client is satisfied with your work. So that can be your delivery payment, which actually talks about your product. There are times when the clients, they will never pay. A lot of photographers tell me that once we give them the pictures, once we give them the films, they are never going to pay. So that is something that you need to figure out how you want to do it. Are you going to give them a smaller resolution picture set? Are you going to give them a watermark picture set? You'll give them like a small resolution, like a 480p film, and let them okay it. And then once they okay it, tell them that you clear your payment, and then we will give you the high resolution images. It all depends on how you want to sort of deal with it. We as a company, we generally take the remaining 50% at the venue, or we would have cleared the remaining 50% before even stepping to the venue. So for us, the failure to perform is on us. The client has already fulfilled his side of the deal. He has already paid 100%. So now it is up to me to make the client happy. So tomorrow, if the client comes to me and says that, I'm not happy, now I need to see what I can do to make him happy, which happens a lot. A lot of clients come to us and they say, this particular moment was not captured the way we wanted it. So then you need to explain that, there were people around, then what was the reason? Was there a lighting issue? Was it a sundowner wedding which got stretched to the night and there was no lighting in the decor? So all those things you need to keep in mind. Because see, the clients don't know why they are not happy. Sometimes it is just a selection of music that you have put in, and the client is like, "No, I'm not enjoying the film," and then you change the music to something which is very sort of which they like, and they suddenly are very happy with it. Although it spoils your film, but sometimes those very small tweaks is all it needs for the client to be happy. So you need to figure out, once you're balancing the failure to pay part, you need to balance that with failure to perform also. So that is risk is on you. You need to figure out how you are able to deliver properly without affecting the quality, without affecting the documentary thing, or let's say if the client wants a full documentary of the wedding in terms of that photographer who got sued. what was his contract, or did he have a contract? Did he promise to give the client 4 hours of footage of that particular day and that everything is going to be covered? Or did he just promise a 20 or 30-minute film? Because, unless you write these things down in your message or in your confirmation, the client can actually sue you because it is open ended. If you're just saying that I will photograph your wedding and I'll give you photos, I'll give you film, and I'll give you album, tomorrow I can sue you because you gave me just 4 hours of film. I was expecting 25 hours of film. And, then you'll have to explain that why you did not come up with 25 hours of film. So if you don't mention that 20 to 40 minutes is your film size, or 2000 pictures is what you are going to be delivering, the client doesn't know. He might be thinking that, maybe I should get everything. Maybe I should get raw images and the camera also. So you need to mention that, you never know that people may start asking that, whatever tools you're using to make our wedding, give us those also. So I'm just saying that, you have to be categorical about your deliverables. You cannot keep it open-ended. Then comes the third and the most talked about and the most controversial topic at the moment, the cancellation postponement clause and the unable to capture clause, or the failure to perform again. So in these times, everybody has different policies. When we booked clients in November, we told them that COVID is on, you are getting into a wedding, keeping in mind that there could be a lockdown, your wedding could be canned, government policies can come into place. And we put in a clause that there will be no refunds. And even if you have carried out 100% payment, only 50% of it will be carried forward as a credit. We will not give you full 100% because we have lost our time, we have lost our dates. I could have probably done a banquet wedding in Delhi, but I came all the way to Jaipur, or I came all the way to Jaipur for your wedding, and then now you're saying that the wedding is not happening. So then I'm not giving you 100%. But then there are different sort of terms for it. Like now in April, you can see that it has been a sudden surge, and there has been, like today, there has been like a sudden change in what is happening. So I can probably decide to sort of enforce that clause, or I can be lenient on that clause and tell my clients that, hey, don't worry, I know you're stressed. I know this was not foreseen. This was very abrupt because, in January, February, we were also thinking that the numbers are going to go down and there will not be a lockdown. So we were not, aware that this is going to happen. So we will work it out. We will mutually work it out. But if this would have happened in November or December, we all knew that, we are sitting in a pandemic and it might happen, it might not happen. So it all depends on how you sort of put in that clause, or how you want to sort of deal with the postponement. Some people deal with postponement by giving 100% credit. Some people take a small deduction. Some people don't offer credits at all. They say that if your wedding is not happening, your payment is gone. So it all depends on your business style, how many weddings you're doing, what is your relationship with your client, what is your billing structure, what is your expenses in your studio. So based on that, you can take a call. You can probably keep a token amount that, okay, this is for the time and energy that we lost, but we understand that it's a COVID, it's a pandemic. So we'll not deduct 100%. We'll probably deduct like 5% or 10%, or maybe just a token amount to tell the client that, okay, we lost dates because of you, but you're not to blame, but we still want some money out of it. Then comes the unable to capture part. Now, here I was talking about the photographer's point of view. I want to safeguard my business. But what about the client? How do we safeguard the client's business? How about a photographer from Bombay who's not able to travel to Jaipur, or who's not able to come to Rajasthan for a wedding because Bombay is in lockdown right now? How do you now safeguard the client? So this is where you need to put in a balanced clause. Are you going to pay him money because you're not able to capture it? Are you going to give him double the money back because you're not able to sort of capture it? If you are only able to offer 100% refund, then you can also only give the client 100% credit. It's a very simple give and take system. If you can't go to an event because of COVID, you are telling the client that I will give your 100% money back. which is, of course, there is no other way to it. But at the same time, then you have to say that if the wedding gets canned because of COVID, then you will also respect the same and give the client the 100% money back or a credit or whatever. Then you will not be in a position to deduct the money. Unless you say that, no matter what lockdown, no matter COVID or whatever, I am going to come to your wedding no matter what. So then you can say that, okay, if the wedding gets canned because of COVID, because of your problem, or because of, it is not my issue, I am going to be there, then you can think about how much you want to deduct from the client side. So this is a very risky proposition, but at the same time, you will need to sort of measure whether you want to do a refund or you want to sort of keep yourself safeguarded and offer a 100% refund if you are not able to reach the venue. And then comes the force majeure and the COVID clauses. So, like I said, a COVID clause is what defines, how you are going to handle the client's money in case the wedding gets postponed because of COVID. So, the first thing that you need to mention is, are you going to offer a full refund or a half refund or a credit or a 10% deduction or whatever? So, that has to be your first part. The second part has to be, if the wedding gets shifted and if you're offering a credit, and if you're not available on that particular date, what are you going to do? So you are obliged to sort of refund the 100% advance or whatever you have taken to the client, no questions asked. If you're available on those dates, you can probably send them a negotiated quote, or you can offer the same quote forward. So that is something that, again, you will have to decide based on your business, but you need to put these 2 points in your contract or in your message. In case the wedding gets postponed, 1, I will give you XYZ amount. Second, the new dates, if you book me, the same amount gets carried forward. If you don't book me, then you're forfeiting XYZ amount. And if you want to book me and if I'm not available, then I will give you a 100% refund. So it just clarifies, your stance on what happens if there is a cancellation. Force majeure is basically it's an unforeseen circumstance. I will talk about force majeure as like the definition. So technically, legally, there is no force majeure. Force majeure is like maybe an earthquake or war or maybe some cancellations of flights or anything, or maybe a lockdown in a particular city. Now, COVID is like a force majeure, but force majeure is an unforeseen circumstance. COVID is more like you can visualize. You know that some shit can happen, some problem can happen. So it is not technically force majeure, but yeah. So whenever you are putting this clause, you need to probably consult some person who is well versed with the legal language, whether you want to use this term or not. Because force majeure cancels the contract. What happens when you cancel a contract is also something that you need to mention. Like for us, if a client cancels a contract, the contract is void and the payment is forfeited. It's a very simple line that we have put in our contract, that tomorrow if the client gets up and says, hey, I don't want you as my wedding photographer, or if they say that, hey, force majeure, because of earthquake, our wedding is cancelled, or whatever. So you need to decide what happens when a wedding or when a contract is cancelled. So there has to be a cancellation clause. It has to come in multiple levels. One has to be due to force majeure, one has to be due to COVID, one has to be due to circumstances where you are not able to go. And finally, there has to be a clause, a cancellation clause, which says that, because the wedding is not happening, because of a client's fault, because, the families decided to call it off, that is something that you need to categorically mention, that you will not offer any refunds in case there is a cancellation because of internal family matters or whatever. I mean, even if you want to keep a good relationship and you feel that, okay, even in that case, you are able to offer money, that is totally up to you. There is no ethical or unethical way to sort of block a payment and not return a payment. It totally depends on what you want to do about it. Okay, so before we look at a contract, do we want to sort of have any questions, Radha, if you're around?
Oh yeah, I'm very much around. So let me
Okay.
keep this off. So people, this is so he's given us a small window before he actually goes into the contract. Maybe if you have any questions, you can please ask now. Okay, before he actually gets into the details of a contract. Okay. Let me just pull that. Srishant Patil is asking, can you read the question?
Srishant Patil is asking, what should we do as a wedding photographer?
It's on your screen.
Oh, yeah, it's here. So high tech. I'm very like old school. What should we do as a wedding photographer if our vision for images are not collinear with client's vision? Usually brides are very picky of the images. Grooms are okay with pictures. How to tackle the dilemma? See, Srishant, this is always a wedding photographer's dilemma. There is no end to whether the client is going to like your pictures or not. Even after 12 years of being in the wedding industry, I am still clueless about what clients really want. I mean, a couple of days back we delivered a kick-ass film. I was so stoked about it, and I was talking to my team about it. I was showing it to my family, and I created a premiere, and we got in the client's family members together and everything, and it was like a lot of tamasha we did on that Sunday, and then the client's reaction was a WhatsApp message saying a heart and a thumbs up, and I was like, I was expecting her to call us, or send us flowers, or send us like some expensive gifts. That okay, such an amazing. But the client expectations are like that. You just need to sort of remember that whatever you have showcased as your profile, whatever you have showcased as your portfolio, and if you have met the client, if you have spoken to the client, if you have done your Zoom calls, and if you have done the thing, you should by now know what the client is expecting. If they are going to be problem client, or if they are going to be a very hard to impress client, or if it's going to be somebody who is, let's say, it's a very beautiful bride, and she is going to be super picky about images. That is where your job becomes extremely difficult. Or if it's a regular looking bride, or a very, let's say, a very simple bride who's very happy with even her selfies or low light pictures without any flash. So you need to put in your expectations. I think more than the bride and groom, our expectations are sometimes so high that we are going to make a Taj Mahal for the bride and groom, and then when they see the Taj Mahal, they're like, we ordered Qutub Minar when we saw your work. Why the hell have you created a Taj Mahal? So
Absolutely.
so it has to be in line with what you're delivering. I feel it's a very subjective way
Subjective,
of looking at things. There is no yes or no to it, but just take it with a pinch of salt. Just don't get disappointed when the bride says, "Oh, I didn't like the image," but you really like it. Put it on Instagram. Let the world see what you like, because that is your vision, and that will attract more people. When you are only stuck on keeping the bride happy, maybe she will appreciate her group photos more, or maybe she will like one of those candid pictures of her more. So that is something that you will probably have to sort of weigh and visualize when you are talking to them and when they are looking at your pictures and films. So if you're doing it later after the wedding, so that is a little, I think, you are a little unprepared for it. But I feel there is no right or wrong. I think just go with your style, deliver that style, and just think of what they would like before stepping into the wedding, and then just do your best. I think that's all I can say to a photographer going for a wedding.
Yeah, because somebody turning around and say "Maja nahi aaya" is something which you cannot really answer to. I knew a gentleman. I mean, in of course, in the creative field, whenever he gets this kind of answer, and he say, "Okay, tell me, Maja kidhar nahi aaya."
Yeah.
So the client obviously is unable to put his or her finger and say that, look, either ye nahi hai. So obviously they are also equally clueless. And so this friend of mine would go around and tickle him from behind and say, "Ab maja aaya." You know, so yeah, it's a very, very, very subjective thing. And with all your experience, you can hope that what you delivered is, you need to be definitely, like you said, sure about what you delivered is what you've been showcasing in your work, and the standard is maintained.
Totally. If it is
Obviously,
in line with that, then I think then it works.
yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the next one, Omkar Khale is asking, some clients can cancel after engagement shoots the wedding shoot order without any reason. So how to handle a client?
So, Omkar, you need to look at human mentality to negotiate. A lot of people want to get a free pre-wedding or an engagement shoot, and then save that money and hire a cheaper photographer for their wedding. So that is a negotiation tactic. How do you tackle that is by making a contract or making it very clear that a pre-wedding photo shoot is a, let's say, if like for me, I offer a pre-wedding photo shoot free of cost to all my clients who are taking a wedding. But in my contract, it is mentioned that if you avail the pre-wedding shoot and if you cancel the wedding contract or whatever, the same cancellation clause applies. So the cancellation clause is 50% gets forfeited. So then you are safeguarded. So that means, let's say your wedding package was for 1 lakh rupees and 50,000 was your advance payment. And let's say you sell your pre-wedding photo shoots for 5,000 rupees, you got 50,000 out of that contract. So it is good value. But you need to be very clear that pre-wedding photo shoot is X amount. If you avail this X amount or if you avail the full package, it is absorbed in the package. If you don't take the package, then the cost is this much. So you just be clear about it. From in the future, just mention pre-wedding shoot cost is XYZ, wedding package cost is ABC. The wedding cost includes the pre-wedding, but if you don't take the wedding, pre-wedding का आपको इतना देना ही पड़ेगा. Simple. Just charge for your pre-wedding shoot.
Wonderful. Jacob Kuruvilla is asking, the major part of Indian wedding photography is to understand the religious rituals and ceremonies and to create memorable images. Any suggestions in understanding the ritual and the time required for it?
Jacob,
Basically, how will you become familiar with all possible different diversities, and the rituals that come along with each different weddings? And
so, Jacob, I'll give you a very sort of a practical answer. So, most of my team members are Punjabi, because we are from Delhi, and I have a lot of Sardars in my team, and we have a couple of new members who understand different languages, like somebody who's Bengali, somebody who's Telugu, and stuff like that. So when we go for a different culture wedding, let's say something which we don't see usually, like a Telugu wedding or a Tamil wedding, or let's say a very like a Christian style Kerala wedding. So we don't know the customs. I mean, they're not in our fingertips. Like if you take me to a Punjabi wedding, I know what kind of a modification of a Punjabi wedding this is happening, and if this is a haldi chuda ceremony happening, I know that this is a slightly modified form of it. We know all variations, so it's like we are very thorough with it. But when we are not doing the different culture weddings, so what we do is first we do research. We look at all the weddings that we have shot. Let's say if we have not shot those kind of cultural weddings, we go on the internet. We look at the local photographers. Let's say there is a Kerala, Malayalam, or some wedding happening. I go to that photographer. I search for photographers in Kerala. I look at their films. I look at their rituals. Although I don't understand the songs or anything, I try to sort of make sense out of it. And then I speak to the bride, which is the most important thing. Any person who is hiring you, you be upfront about them. You need to tell them that I am not a regular with Tamil weddings. Can you guide me to what your ceremony is going to look like? If they say like like in Telugu there is this Pelli Kuturu and Pelli Koduku and all these ceremonies. Imagine if I tell my Sardarji lead photographer, पहली कोतरू हो रहा है वहां पे चले जाओ, he'd be like, क्या हो रहा है? So you have to tell them it's a making of the bride हो रहा है, ये हल्दी जैसा सेरेमनी होता है, लेकिन इस पे चावल डालते हैं सिर के ऊपर. So this comes with research, and then when you tell your team members that okay, this ceremony is happening or this is going to happen, you can define it in your own way. But the religious ceremonies and the customs are defined. They will happen in a slightly modified way. They will happen maybe non-sequentially, but they are going to happen. Like that, in Telugu weddings, they after the wedding is over, they go and see the star. So they go out and they are looking at that star, and that is going to happen. Sometimes it's raining, so it will happen at the mandap only. In Tamram weddings, there is this movement in which the bride sits on the her father's lap. So there is a ceremony, that is when the Mangal Sutram happens. And then, so, these are the things which we have done, understood through research, and we knew this is going to happen. We have discussed that with the bride, we have discussed that with the family, and then we have captured it properly. And there is no other way to do it. Even if you are not doing a typical style of rituals regularly, you will need to sort of go to the table and sort of do your research. If you're doing something regularly, then of course it will be on the back of your mind, and then you will know what ceremony it is. So the only way to understand is look at research, look at other weddings, and if possible, go to family weddings in that kind of a culture to get a better understanding of how it actually happens.
Okay, thank you. That was nicely detailed. Srishant is back with a question, because he finds it very difficult for a fresher, a new guy to talk about contract and convince the client to get into a contract with them. So how do you do it if you're a beginner? So because there are times you can end up losing that contract. I mean that assignment because you insisted on a contract.
So, rather, like I said, a contract is not actually a physical piece of paper or a legal document. It could just be a WhatsApp conversation. Sometimes what happens is like for us, there are times when we are doing like a contract or now we are very proper with our documentation, but our initial conversation is also contractual. So when I send a proposal to a client, I would say that, okay, this is my package number ABC. This is going to cover 2 days of your photography and films. In those 2 days, we are going to cover your Mehendi, Sangeet and wedding. These are the deliverables. This is the total payment involved. The travel, accommodation, the taxes are all additional. Now, these are the delivery timelines. If there is, let's say he's talking about the same day edit, so then I clearly mention that same day edit, the last shot will be your Haldi event. I will not be able to touch your getting ready or your walking in because you want to showcase it right after your ceremony is over. We will not be able to render it. We need 6-hour render time. So last Haldi is the maximum I can do in your same day edit, and then I add it in the contract. So all that becomes a WhatsApp message. That is an initial conversation. Once your initial conversation is over, you can add those in separate details. So that is the only thing that is required. A little bit of tiny details that you keep adding is your contract. And then once your email or WhatsApp message is ready, you can probably take a printout and do a signing on the left side, ask the client to sign it on the right side. That becomes your legally binding contract. It's as simple as that. A contract need not be, document, फिर उसको आप legally stamp करा रहे हो, ऐसा कुछ नहीं चाहिए. It has to be very simple. Just conversation. You keep building upon that conversation. You keep adding on to those points. If the client says, will you cover my pre-wedding shoot? You add that, you copy paste that paragraph in WhatsApp, add that one line, pre-wedding shoot added for so-and-so date, cost increased by XYZ amount. Simple. It's just very basic.
Okay, thank you. Ashish Vengurlekar is up. You have that problem with your light again, huh? Okay, so Ashish, thank you very much, Ashish, for tuning in. Ashish is a friend. He's a is a practicing wedding photographer from Mumbai, and Ashish want to ask you a question. Ashish is asking, who select the final images for the wedding album, you or your client?
Okay, so Ashish, there is no right or wrong answer for this. There are times when we select images for the client. There are times when the client selects images. It is all decided during the conversation when we are booking the project. We ask them, do you have the patience and energy to select? They say yes, we are going to do it. Then we put in a clause that okay, by 6 months, if you don't do it, we are going to take over. And they say no, 6 months is too less. Put it for 1 year. So then we write that in the contract or that message that client has agreed that they will select images in 1 year from the wedding date. So if they don't give us images by the first anniversary, Team Ramit Batra Photography will take over and we will do our selections and we'll give the album. See, because we have taken their money, I am obligated to give them the albums. I don't want the client to sort of badmouth me 2 years later and say, "Oh, Ramit ka team to is very laxed, हमारा तो album भी नहीं आया अभी तक." They don't see. They have paid me, so they can totally say that. Technically, I have not delivered, but why the delivery has not happened is never a conversation. So we take over. We tell them, okay, 2 years also is allowed, not beyond that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are a few more questions which has come up. Is 1 second. Yeah, an advice for a 20-year-old who wants to become a wedding photographer.
Pratik, wedding photography is very lucrative. So right now, everybody wants to become a wedding photographer. The best way to start is by assisting somebody. Go see how a wedding photographer functions, assist them, help them with lights and bags, and go to events with them and figure out how wedding photography works. Do that at your own expense for 2, 3, 4, or 5 weddings. And that is going to help you understand wedding photography. And if you like it, you would have already gained so much knowledge that you will be able to get into it. And then you can officially start assisting the photographer who you were sort of going there as a tryout or a helper. So that is the only way to start.
And this is very important. This one question is because this was probably not mentioned in your contract. How to restrict the number of changes or edit which the client keep asking?
Okay, so I think let me show you the wordings of a contract on how we do it. That will be able to sort of so Radha, are you able to sort of see this?
Yes, I can. So when you hit play, I'll share the screen.
So I'll keep it at this only. So I'll
oh yes, okay. So there it is on the screen. All right.
Okay. So this is a slightly stripped down version of our contract. So the first is basically the details of a wedding, wherein we are going to sort of write. Oh, you are looking at the other one. Wait.
Yeah, because what you that's the only screen which is shared now.
Okay, I just change this. Okay.
And lots of very interesting questions are coming up now. Okay, so I have added to the stream. Yes, there it is. It's a PDF, is it? Okay.
This is a PDF, yeah. So this is where we start with the details of the wedding. Just name the client, son and daughter of, shipping address, name of the bride, groom, name of the planner, contact numbers. Here, the blank space is where we give the event itinerary. Dates, timings, venue, when do we need to report, when does the event end, and all that which I spoke about. So that is going to sort of come here. Then comes the photography package. This is where, okay, this package, signature package, whatever, I'm going to be directing this. It's not going to be the team. Coverage as on page 3. This was page 3, which I had just shown. What you get, it's very simple. It's not a legal language. I'm writing in very simple words what you get. So here we write, let's say I'm going to write all photos captured. Then I'm going to write in the bracket 2000 to 3000 JPEG images. So see, here I have done two things. I have added a cap on the number of pictures that the client is getting. I have mentioned that the format is going to be JPEG, and I have mentioned that this is going to be the full set. This is going to be all the images. So that is how you need to sort of write. This simple English line becomes a contractual term that you are going to get all the pictures. Let's say if I write, I am going to give a short film teaser, 5 to 7 minutes, HD quality, or 720p or whatever, 1080p, whatever is your, or full HD quality, whatever you want to sort of write here, you can write. So this, the client knows that they are getting these two things. An album which is 15 inches by 15 inches, leather bound, with 30 sheets, and
Okay, so you're going to the details of the deliverable.
can take 200 images. That's it. This is my package. I mean, it is not difficult to add. Now, this is basically your initial package, which you are sort of asking your client to sort of read and listen to. Then there are additions. Let's say you added a pre-wedding shoot. So that becomes a complementary addition. Let's say you're doing a broadcast or a live thing. So we are saying that give us a high-speed internet connection. Let's say you're adding a drone. So we are asking you give us drone permissions for all 3 days or whatever. So that is your first page. Then comes your payments and delivery. Like I mentioned, you mentioned your total package cost, your first payment, second payment, GST is additional, booking fee has to be carried out at the time of the booking, payment 2 has to be carried out 60 days before the first event. So, all these things you mentioned. Then comes your timeline. So at the same page where I'm securing myself, I am securing the client. That is how my contract is. It is all give and take. So if I'm taking something, what am I giving on that particular page? Timelines. First look of pictures, 1 minute teaser, whatever days. Short film, full set of pictures, whatever days. Event and long film set. So, this defines on when they are getting something. If the client wants more albums and more events, you write the prices here. That is also covered. Then the most important terms are basically there's a very long sort of explanation. I'm going to get back to what my friend was asking about the film, or what happens when changes are there. So we are looking at this part. So let's say I'm reading my part number D. We request you to let us know beforehand if you want any particular people or shots included in the trailer. Let's say if they want like an interview or something. And after the shoot is done, the client may suggest up to 5 changes to the video only once, provided the edit doesn't change the integrity of the film and is limited to omission of a particular scene with a different one suggested by the client. So it is a very simple thing that we have added. It is in one line we have said 5 change मिलेगा आपको, 5 change भी एक बार मिलेगा, वो भी एक बार में आपको ऐसा चेंज करने को मिलेगा कि आप शॉट डिलीट करके कोई और शॉट से रिप्लेस करना है तो आप बता पाएंगे हमको. That is it. I mean, if you tell me to change your music, if you tell me कि okay, add this shot of XYZ thing here, insert something, I might not be able to do it. So that is something that I'm categorically writing here. And that kind of covers how many changes you're doing and how many times, the changes are going to sort of take place.
There is, I mean, I just saw about, you mentioning about, the mention about GST. Now, lots of clients are not willing to pay GST on, do you, or you come across a situation like that? If you do, how do you deal with them?
So you need to figure out, so this is something that goes to the accounts team. You need to, in the end, as an entity, you need to figure out, are you paying GST or are you not paying GST? There are people who are not eligible to pay GST at the moment. So then for them, it becomes very easy. They can take the amount in check or cash or whatever is legally allowed. For us, if we are taking an amount from a client who is paying the GST is the question. It is not a question of I don't want to pay the GST or I am not giving you a check. It basically means that the client is asking that reduce the price by 18%. It's a very simple calculation. So whatever payment you are getting, if you are ready to absorb that 18% from your own pocket, you can take it. If you feel that 18% is too much, you can say that, okay, let's do 50-50. Let's say at a 1 lakh, 18,000, 9,000 I'll pay from my pocket. So your package reduces to 91,000 essentially. And the remaining 9,000 is paid by the client. It is just a negotiation tactic. It's not like, oh, hum GST nahi denge. It is nothing like that. It is like paisa kam karo. That is essentially what it means.
Yeah, that is an interesting explanation. Jacob Kurula is back. He has this question: is it okay to ask your client to explain about the tradition? Remember there was a question some time back about the customs and traditions. Yeah.
So Jacob, that is extremely important. If you have not got experience in a particular ceremony, or if you have not done, let's say 40-50 weddings in that particular culture, you be very upfront to the client and tell them, I do not understand the language, I do not understand the customs, whatever are your pain points, and then ask the client to help you with it. There are times when they'll allocate a brother or a cousin to sort of, translate stuff for you. They might give you like a dedicated helper who will sort of direct that, okay, this ceremony is going to happen, now this is happening. Or they'll give you a list of ceremonies so that, you can keep an eye that, okay, this is happening and now the next ceremony is supposed to happen. So it is you have to be honest to the client. Otherwise, the same, the case which happened earlier, those are the things which happen because there is a mismatch. The client feels you did not deliver, but since you did not tell them that you did not know how to capture it, they will not know. So you have to tell them.
All right. I hope Jacob Kurula got his answer. There's an interesting question. I think this also refers Joshua McTackett. Doesn't look like an Indian name. Where are you from, my friend? Would love to know where you are from. The question is, I recently had daily calls for a week after a wedding with requests and calls that took my time and a lot of toll on my mind. It's like you were mentioning earlier in your contract, they would keep calling you back saying that the function is not ended, so come back and do this and do that, and it kept on. The scope of work kept on increasing. So his question is, how can we prevent that?
So again, Joshua, it all comes down to how clear you are to the client with your documentation and contract. If you have clearly mentioned that, after the event, you are not able to sort of give pictures or previews or, teasers till a very bare minimum, 10 days or 15 days. So if they ask you for, can you please give me 2 pictures, or can you please give me that particular part of that ceremony because I really want to put that on Instagram. It all depends on how much time and energy you want to sort of put in. We cannot say no to a client abruptly and throw the contract on their face saying that, hey, can't you see that it is written in the contract that don't bother me for 10 days because I'm processing. You cannot do that. So you just have to sort of politely sort of take time and get back to them. And this comes with the job of a wedding photographer. The clients are impatient. So every time you go back after a wedding, we generally take weddings which have gaps in between. We don't take back-to-back weddings for this purpose because, we know that the client would want some pictures. Some people want to sort of register their marriage. Some people want to go for their honeymoon to Maldives and they want 10 pictures printed. So, all those things will happen. And you need to have some time and energy right after the wedding to sort of accommodate that. But not at the expense of, just totally destroying your life and then, just keep delivering stuff that they're asking for. If after a point they're asking for too much, you have to tell them no. that I cannot do so much. But if they're asking for a picture, or if they're asking for like 5 pictures, or maybe a 30-second raw clip on WhatsApp, I think we should oblige and give them that.
All right. I hope Joshua got the answer. Incidentally, he just messaged saying that he's from Australia, Canberra. Hey, thanks, mate. As you say down under. Thank you very much. Really, really happy to know that someone from Australia is watching our humble
nice.
show. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next question. Ranjan Sharma is one of our mentors at Pixel Village. Incidentally, since people are around, I should quickly mention that Pixel Village also has a website. We shall I quickly share our page? Maybe I think I should quickly share the page, and there it is. There you are. This is our website, and we have online photography. It's an online photography education portal where we have some of the finest photography mentors in the country teaching photography for you. I should point out that there he is. That's Ranjan Sharma. He's there in the chat with us. So in case if you want to ask something, you can ask Ranjan sir about some doubts that you have. He's a mobile phone photography specialist. So we have lots of courses. They're all pre-recorded classes on various subjects, various topics, all photography, and very, very reasonably priced. And in this month, anyone who buys a class in our session in our website also stands to win an AD100 Pro. Again, sorry, limited only to Indian audience, because you can't really re-export stuff from the country because of some limitations in export. So if anyone buys a class this month, it's valid till the 30th of April. You stand to win AD100 Pro. Okay, so please check out our website and sign up, and we'll appreciate that. Also, at the end of once you successfully finish your session, you will also get a downloadable certificate. That's it. So that's about Pixel Village. So let's quickly move on with this evening's session. Yes. Before I forget, because we are already into 2 hours. I mean, it's supposed to be a 1 hour session. We are already into 2 hour session. People are still hanging out with us. Thank you very much for that. So let me tell you at this point that we're going to have a session on astrophotography. Okay, from our friend Ajit Everester. He lives in Doha, in the Middle East, and he's going to talk about from wide field to deep space. Now, when you say astrophotography, the first thing that comes to your mind is images like this, right? Images like galaxy and star trails and stuff. This man shoots real serious stuff. He shoots deep space. Okay, so he said something like 18-hour exposures and 22-hour exposures and all that. I don't know how it is done. I can't even shoot a decent night sky myself, so this is way beyond my understanding. So I am going to learn that along with you all next week, next Tuesday, 13th, between 6 and 7 p.m. Ajit Everester is going to be here, and he is going to talk. He's a self-taught photographer. Everything that he's going to probably, if time permits, he's also going to demonstrate his work. Okay, so I'm looking forward to that again.
I'm looking
please
forward
spread
to that.
the word. Yeah, that's an amazing guy. Deep space. I mean, look at this image. Look at this image.
This is insane.
Yeah.
This is insane.
All right. So wonderful. So moving on.
Yeah. So what are the other questions that we have?
The other question.
We have so many questions.
Yeah, there are so many questions. So many photographers, Some I can't seem to understand.
Should I read out some of them?
Yeah. So Joshua's back. He's got, I think, a follow-up question. So can you please read that?
You do as the photographer specify in the contract that they are not for commercial use except by the photographer to promote portfolio and business. Uh, Joshua, in India, the rights are not, especially when you're doing a wedding photography assignment. I mean, it is assumed that any pictures that you create are going to be used wherever. So it's like a given sort of non-verbal agreement. I have actually put that in my contract. I can probably read out the terms of our contract, but I know I've shot a lot of businessmen, but I've never invoked that clause that you're using my images for your magazine covers and stuff. Sometimes I don't even get credit for that, but it's a very personal thing. I don't pursue after it because Indian laws are very complex. If especially in wedding photography, it comes under work for hire, and it is not a commercial assignment, which typically a commercial photographer or an editorial photographer can sort of list out. So the terms of a wedding photography contract become quite vague when it comes to the usage bit. But anyways, we can still read about it. So I have a clause called rights and ownership of pictures. So all photographs, films, audio, and content captured by the photographer and his associates are the sole and exclusive property of the photographer, and the photographer reserves the right to use the set of client's pictures to showcase his work online. So basically, I want to not sort of allow the client to sort of sell or do anything to the picture. So I'm just declaring that it is not required anyway when you are capturing a picture. It is your copyright, but you are still declaring that okay, this is a sole copyright of the photographer, that is me, and I am reserving the right to use the client's images to sort of show on Instagram and Facebook or wherever. At the same time, the photographer grants the client unrestricted personal use rights of the photographs. This is where I'm saying that if you want to use it commercially, you need to sort of take permission, or you need to sort of speak to me. Commercial use is prohibited. The client, however, may not sell, transfer, or use these images commercially without the photographer's prior written consent. This is where it means that if the photographer, if the client wants to use the image in, let's say, a magazine cover or in their website portfolio, they should take my permission. If I feel that I can ask for money during that time, I can probably do so. But at least I should be made aware that this is happening. If I know that okay, this is some big shot or somebody who's escaped with that image, he has escaped a full photo shoot, I can probably tell them that this is something which was done for the wedding or for an event. Now you're using it commercially. Can you please give me some service fee out of it or some usage fee? Which is not going to happen because they're like, hey, there was just a wedding picture. You were already paid for the wedding and stuff like that. So in India, it might not work, but in the Western countries, in Australia, the rules of copyright and the commercial usage policies are very stringent. So you can actually, if you put this clause in your contract, you can actually enforce a payment out of it if they are used commercially. Because from what I know from other photography peers in the industry, the typical case time for a case of commercial use is between 15 to 20 days. So you can actually file a case, win the case, and get the money out in just a month. So it is actually commercially viable to sort of put this in the contract. In India, however, I think it doesn't make sense. What do you say, Radha? I mean, you do commercial shoots. How do you enforce
Yes.
such a thing?
Commercial shoots. Well, again, same scenario. In India, lots of these rights of the creator or the artist is protected only to a certain extent. One of my producer's son, while the son was a little boy, his image was used as a cover picture on the bottle of a baby, some I think a baby soap or a baby food or something like that. Okay. Now that boy is working in San Jose, got 2 children, but this picture is still being used on the cover of that particular product. Now there is currently people are trying to kind of bring in some method into this madness, but the chances are, if you are dealing with a local client and not dealing with an internationally known brand like a Procter and Gamble or a Unilever, where they insist that we should get into a contract and we give them very clear usage rights, usage particular. So what I do is I built it as a part of my clause, saying that like a big, let's say a big company like let's say a company X has got 10 different products, and I shot for product A. That particular image, if it's a lifestyle shoot, can be also used by the product B team, for their marketing, and it has happened to me. So I started mentioning that I've shot it only for product A, and if you're using it for anything else, we'll have to discuss, and things like that. Usage of those images in other countries, all those things can be built into your contract. I make it, like you said, I make it very simple. Yeah. Like a bullet point, and so that very easy to decipher. I just add it as a part of my estimate. So when the approval comes, it means they have accepted it. If they have any problem, they would, So I don't send a separate docket with estimate. So there's. Yeah. I know for a fact that it is very, very serious in the Western world, and they have, it's very well defined, and both parties are protected. But yeah, we are getting there. Hopefully, we will. But it's for the time being, like you said, it's more on things work more on your more on your relationship with the client. The problem happens when your product manager or the brand head or somebody moves away from the brand team, somebody else replaces, and if he or she wants to use that image for something else, that's the time all these problems start happening. But yes, build it in, like you said. Don't get into legal sounding documents, at least for the time being in our country, barring a few. I know some of my photographers who are like really big photographers, they actually get into serious documentation, and they get away with it because they are heavyweights. Small fries like me don't really count, so I make it like a subdued affair, but I make sure that the big ticket items are protected. So that's how I deal that situation. Wonderful. I think we've crossed this 2-hour spot. Maybe we should take 2-3 more questions, because I'm in my home and it's dinner time. And if I don't, they're going to switch off the Wi-Fi and ask me to get out of the dining table. So
I think we can probably take another time slot and continue this some other time as well. But you can probably pick like 2 or 3, and I think some winners also need to be announced.
Absolutely. So this is very interesting question from L1 perspective. He's from Chennai, Tamil Nadu. He's asking, is it possible to sustain in wedding photography as a single person with the help of freelancers? Okay, you're not a wedding company. You're like a individual with people available on call. What is your suggestion? And thanks.
Yeah, Elvin, I think this is easily doable. After a point, it becomes sort of impossible to sort of continue if you don't have a team. But you can totally do it with freelancers as long as you have a vision, you have some distinct style which sort of goes from one wedding to the other. The problem with freelancers is that if you don't hire the same people, you will get different quality of work. And that becomes like a big red flag in the wedding industry. People look at it and they'll be like, okay, this wedding was nice, but this wedding was not nice. So that when your work is nice and not nice, it becomes a big issue. When your work is okay and this was slightly better, this was slightly lower, people still understand that it is coming from the same company. But when you see peaks and bottoms, then people will not appreciate your work. So if you are a photographer or a cinematographer, you definitely need one more like the other person to sort of carry on with the wedding. It is great to sort of start with, and then you can probably collaborate with them. Give them like a small stipend to sort of give you preferred dates, and only hire them like how you would hire an employee. So I think it is workable. It is quite possible.
All right. Thanks for asking that question. It's very important. Ashish Vengurlekar is back. He's got one more question. Who keeps the final image rights? Can the client share final images with other vendors, jewelry designer, or dress designer for their commercial use or social media use? Since we shot, so that's our question.
So Radha, can we go to the document again?
Yes, of course. There you are.
So the point number D, which says the photographer retains the copyright to all photographs, videos created as a part of this agreement, which means everything that we have created in photos and videos. The client shall not acquire any rights, title, or interest in or the said photographs, prints, videos, or their use other than as specifically set forth in the agreement. So basically, what this paragraph is saying is that I am doing wedding photography for you. This is for your personal use. You are not going to sort of keep forwarding it to other brands and allow them to use it because you don't own the rights of these images. So now this is the most interesting bit. If tomorrow a brand X picks up one of the images from the client, you can sue them. Now this is something that if you have in your contract, that the client does not have any forwarding rights or any rights, or he cannot acquire any rights in the images and films or anything, then this is a very interesting point for other brands. So whenever the client gives it to another brand, and if the brand reaches out to you saying that, okay, I am, let's say, a very popular brand who does expensive lehengas and bridal wear, but of course I'm not going to pay because I'm India's most popular person, but I will give you credit on my Instagram, which is 3 million people. Are you okay with it? For me, I would be like, this is a lost battle. Let him use it. Give me credit. I might get 2 or 3 brides out of it. Somebody who will go to their page, they will look at it and they'll look at my image and they'll be like, oh, other images shot by other wedding photographers are not that awesome. This guy's image is something which I really connect to, and I like the lehenga also. I want to contact this person. So it is a win situation for me. But if that image is picked by a brand which I don't want to sort of interact with, or if I feel that it is an unethical brand, and if they have picked up an image, making it a commercial shoot, you can just send them a cease and desist email. You can tell them that, you don't have the rights to use this image. The image was for personal use by the client. And if they have forwarded this image to you, we are making you aware that you don't have the rights to use it. And please take this down in the next 72 hours, or we will continue and take further action. And most of the brands will generally not want a mess out of it, and they'll take it down immediately. So we have faced that with a lot of jewelry brands, and we have faced that with a couple of other brands who are, who just picked up the images without credit. They used it. We just asked them to either give credit because we liked their profile. There was like a lot of movement in their profile. We said, give us credit or take down the image. A couple of them took down the image. A couple of them gave us credit. And so 12 years, honestly, not many legal battles. The best or the furthest we went was to send legal notices to people who were using images wrongly, or who had maybe some album manufacturer who had just picked up one of our album designs and he decided that this is our portfolio now. So he started making that as a display piece. So we had to sort of tell him to stop using it. He did not, so we sent him a legal notice and he stopped using it. So this is how far it goes in the photography world. So I don't think you need to worry about it, but you own the rights, and a third party other than the client can definitely not poke his nose. Till a client is there, it's fine, but a third party you can definitely sue and you will easily win the case. So there is no doubt on that.
Wonderful. Great. So that's I think that was a very, very important question. Tarun is asking, this is an advice that he wants. what's your advice? Basically, as a successful photographer, what would you recommend for small-time photographers from for small towns, so that they could gain exposure, which could which help them get more leads,
Right.
yeah, and of course start a new business.
So Tarun, you have two questions in this. One is how to sort of gain exposure. To gain exposure, you have to do more work. Right now, everybody is doing a lot of Instagram posts, and people are doing all these reels and all that, which is a lot of gimmicky stuff. So stay away from that and create good content. Because people are just stuck upon getting more likes and more followers, and they forget that they want to do photography as a business. They don't want to become a Instagram influencer. So you don't need more likes, or you don't need more followers to sort of win the business of photography. You need good content. And even if 2 or 3 people are following you, and if they like your work, and if they hire you, that is much better than somebody with 50,000 followers and who is not getting any business. So think about what you're doing. So for exposure, do more work, do work at a slightly lower cost because you don't have experience. That is how most people start. In your second question, you're asking how to build a good team. You will build a good team when you go out there and you start asking people to join you and to work with you. The best part about this, when you're starting, is that it's a blank canvas. You don't know what you want, and maybe there is a friend of yours who's good with video work on a mobile phone, and he can probably become your cinematographer eventually. And there is somebody who's good with styling or art concepts. They can become a creative director. So that is how a team is made. And then all of you need to sort of work on your skills and build and take it forward. But in terms of exposure, either you assist somebody, or you create more work, or do both. You go out and assist somebody, work with somebody for 5-6 months, understand the business of photography, learn, take coaching. Like Radha sir has such fabulous content. Learn what you want to do, and that is the only way to sort of grow in photography.
Sure. I think we should take one more question and call it evening. And of course, then I would request Ramit to pick today's winner from the questions that he has answered. Unfortunately, we can't give it away to Joshua because he's from Australia.
Yeah.
And, but thank you, Joshua, for asking that question anyway. This is one last question that we should take and probably call it, like I said, call it in the evening.
Okay, so somebody is using your pictures at a profile, and the team is not doing anything. See, I think you'll have to pursue it a little more. You'll have to probably speak to the owners. It's very easy to find out their phone number or contact details from the internet. So you should reach out to them. They are very quick in taking these actions, because sometimes the team just ignores that. Okay, maybe you don't have, maybe you are lying, maybe he's lying. Who do we trust? So that is why they probably ignore that somebody else is using your images. But I think you should just reach out to the owners, give them proof of your pictures, that these are your pictures and they are wrongly being used, and ask them to take down the piece of that person. Or you just ask them that since he's done this, it's very unprofessional, ask them to sort of block that person from the internet. So that is something that you can do. If you want to sort of take it up very seriously, you can go to somebody who can give you legal advice and draft a 1-page cease and desist notice, and just send that email to the company concerned and tell them that this is actually a legal notification. It is not fun and games anymore. We are taking legal action because you are not taking down our pictures, and we don't know this company, so we'll take action against you. They will immediately take notice, but you will lose maybe a couple of ₹1,000 in making that draft. So I would say just contact the owners and ask them to sort of take it down. That's the cheapest way to do it.
Wonderful. Ranjit Sadanandan is saying that yet another amazing session from Pixel Village. Ramit is a patient presenter. Bravo. Hey, thank you, Ranjit, for that words of encouragement. And Joshua is saying, I like your beard. So which black dye do you use? I use a white one.
You use a white one. I use a salt and
you-
pepper guy. Some gas.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Joshua, for that appreciation. Wonderful. So I think it's time to pick today's winner. So if you can, if you
Radha,
remember, if you
you pick? I think you have better access to the questions. I think I'll let you pick the winner.
so I like this particular question where they asked about what, because that's something which it was in my mind too. You shoot and somebody else has used the picture. So I think this particular image, this particular one I like personally. I think this is a good question to pick. Ashish Vengulekar, who asked who keeps the final image rights, and about the designers and the dress designers and the makeup people using your image for their for their commercial promotion purposes. So I think that's an important question. I think that was asked. I think he deserves this particular product. It is the Godox R1. It's a beautiful little, very useful, light. What Ashish should do is to, put your email ID as a reply to, to a comment that we will make soon after the session ends. And you can reply to that with your email ID, and we will get back to you, get all your details, and we will make sure that this reaches your doorstep as soon as possible. So that's that was a long evening, and I can hear my folks at home, folks at home suddenly becoming a little impatient, and soon I will be thrown away from the dining table. I can see some some looks happening from there. Yes. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining in this evening's session with Ramit. Ramit, as usual, was outstanding. You answered. You stayed there and answered everyone's questions very, very, very logically, in a very, anybody could have understood this conversation. It was so legible, so easy to understand it. Thanks everyone for joining in today, and please remember to join for next Tuesday's session with Ajit Forrester on astrophotography. I am also looking forward to it, and thank you very much, Ramit, once again for your time, your patience.
It was such a pleasure talking to you and so many people. I think I need to apologize. We could not cover everyone, and there were so many questions around. But I think we should connect and do this again. Maybe
absolutely. I think this can be a. I think this can be a serious, webinar where you can actually teach people how to, create contracts. Let's see if we can devise one. I've been flashing this in your Instagram handle to our audience, but if you have not got it, yes, Ramit Batra Photography, please follow him, and you will see his amazing work. Once again, well, I think lots of people, I'd like to now, people have started leaving. So before you leave, I'd like to definitely, request you to leave your comments here. Well, Joshua says it's 1 a.m. there. Wow, in Canberra, 1 a.m. Fantastic.
Oh,
that's like time for your morning coffee. Ashish is in Pune. Okay, so you can drop into the studio tomorrow. You know where it is. You can find it out from the internet. Please drop into the studio, and so that we can save some courier money. All right. Wonderful. Thank you very much once again. Looking forward to meeting you again tomorrow, next Tuesday. Please spread the word. And once again, be very, very careful. COVID is still around and very active now. So don't be adventurous. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family, your near ones, and use this time, the extra time that you've got in your hand, to kind of enrich yourself, your body, mind, your intellect, everything. Spread joy and have a great night. Bye for now.
Bye. Good night.